Hi everyone, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. This is another live episode, and I'm going to be looking at using Apple Intelligence on your Mac with your Mac apps. So, looking at Apple Intelligence, of course, you have to have a Mac that's capable of running Apple Intelligence. There's some regions, I think, where you still can't, and you have to have a fairly recent Mac. A lot of this may or may not work on the iPad and iPhone as well, but I'm really just going to focus on Mac here. Um, Looking at my system settings, you could see here under Apple Intelligence and Siri, I've got Apple Intelligence turned on, of course. Um, and I'm going to be using Siri a lot to access Apple Intelligence. And also notice I've got under extensions, I've turned on ChatGPT. And there's an option in here, if you click on ChatGPT, to have it like ask for permission every time that it's going to use ChatGPT. I've turned that off. So it's not going to ask for permission. So if it's asking you for permission each time, you know why, and the settings in here. I recommend turning this on even if you're using just a free ChatGPT account because it keeps a nice history of everything you've asked and all of that. But I understand if you don't want to. And some of this may or may not work just using plain old Apple Intelligence. In other words, Apple's a large language model rather than ChatGPT's large language model. But I find the results are still far better with OpenAI's ChatGPT because, of course, it's a much more mature model. Apple hasn't really reached anywhere near the level of functionality that ChatGPT has. So let's go here and take a look at what I'm talking about when I mean using AI, Apple Intelligence with apps. So yeah, you could go in and you could activate Siri and ask Siri questions. And Siri is still primarily an assistant. You can still just ask it to like set a reminder, start an alarm, that kind of thing. But you can also now, thanks to Apple Intelligence, ask questions like, "What's the fastest bird in North America?" or whatever, and you can get an answer. But you could also ask Siri questions that are using the context of the app you're using. Like, for instance, I am using Pages now, and I've got a long document in Pages, the entire book, Treasure Island, in fact, in a very long document. I'm using it as an example. The idea here is this might be a book that you're writing, right? Or a really long report you're writing or something like that. And you've got it in here and you want to be able to use AI to help you with this. As an example, for instance, like just a really basic thing, you may just want to ask a question like this. I'll activate a Siri here, and I have it set to type to Siri just to make it easier to make a video like this, but you're probably going to actually click here and then ask Siri with your voice. But you could say, what are the major themes in this document? And I'm gonna press return and it's gonna say working. And then what it should do, yep, is it's going to come up and it says send this content from Pages. It recognizes that the app here you're using is Pages to ChatGPT. And you have two options. And this is where it's important. You've got the screenshot option, so just send what's visible, or full content. Send all of the content of this document in. So I'm going to send all of the content of the document in, and it's going to send that to ChatGPT along with my question, and hopefully it'll come up with a good answer here and give me the themes of this book. So let's see. And of course, I should say that using something like this, it's to quote Galaxy Quest, it's more art than science sometimes. But here I get a response from this, and it just read, what was here. So if this had been something I wrote, I could have gotten a similar answer. Now, this, it's maybe a good study guide to learn more about this book if you're studying it for school or something. But let's say it's something you wrote and you're just want to kind of use an assistant that has like a perfect memory. You could say, a follow-up question here. Who is the person that they find on the island? And let's see, I guarantee you during this video, I'm going to get a lot of wrong answers or times it doesn't answer. Let's see how long I can go before that happens. Who's the person they find on the island? So let's do that. Let's see if it can do it. And Give me an answer. So, the idea is you wrote this, you're writing something and you forget something that's from an earlier chapter. And let's see if it can figure that out. The other problem that you often have here is it sometimes does not remember the context, doesn't remember you're in Pages here. But here, look, it found the answer from reading the text. So if you dabble in writing, sometimes you have that thing where it's like, oh, what did I call? Or what town did I have the characters go into? Or what was that person they met in the diner? And you got to go and find it. But you can use Apple Intelligence to actually do it using the context of the document you're working on. So imagine all the other things that I could ask here about this, including contextual stuff. So I could definitely ask it things like, tell me more about the writing of this book, it being a real book, or, things like that. So maybe I can even have it look for inconsistencies in the book. Have I always spelled this character's name the same? That kind of thing. You can ask it lots of different things. Um, so yeah, that's a good example of how to do this using Pages, but it's not just Pages. Let's go into Numbers here. So I've got a spreadsheet here in Numbers, and this is just a sample spreadsheet. You may recognize it from a tutorial I've done in the past. And the example here is just a bunch of products sold, the amount, and then I've got the cost of them and then the sale price. And then there's a bunch of stores and stuff. And it's a long document here. And if you want to compute something from it, you can do all sorts of cool formulas. You can create pivot tables and all of that. But you could also rely on Apple Intelligence just to analyze the document and maybe tell you some things about it. So I can go in here and say, from this spreadsheet, uh, which products have the best profit? And it should do the same thing here, prompting me, do I want to send a screenshot? There he goes. Or full content. So far, it's been really good at recognizing the document I'm talking about. If it doesn't, if it's like recognizing some other document you have open, or it says, I don't know, what document are you talking about? Sometimes I find it's good to make the document full screen, go to full screen mode, so it kind of recognizes that, oh, there's only one document I could be talking about. I'm going to send this whole document in here, and let's see if it just could analyze the spreadsheet and come up with an answer to this kind of ambiguous question that I could spend a few minutes building some sort of spreadsheet to, or pivot table or something to give me an answer to. But with ChatGPT, it's going to be pretty quick here in telling me what I want to know, I hope. So let's see it. And it's definitely faster at sometimes than other times. It probably depends on how much of a workload ChatGPT has at the moment. So come on, ChatGPT, there you are. Oh, no, okay. So like this is the more art than science. Like I tested this just before going live. I did a bunch of tests and it told me perfectly quickly that it was oranges. Um, so let's try it again here. Sometimes the language helps. Okay. Um, which product most, and let's see if saying document instead of spreadsheet. Document definitely seems to be a magic word when asking Apple Intelligence stuff right now, at least, instead of like doing something else. So here it goes. So this, you can see how quickly it responded this time, right? So this time, not only does it give me an answer, orange is the most profitable product, but it actually breaks it down and gives me the numbers here. So I've got that, and I could follow up. Notice how in Pages, I followed up with a question. I didn't have to send the document again. And I could follow up here. Which store is the most profitable? Let's see if it can get this one. And it's not asking me for the document again because it has the document. It's continuing the chat. So there it goes. So it tells me the West store. So you can see how I've gotten information here from this spreadsheet in numbers using Apple Intelligence. So it's kind of the whole point here. Now, it's sometimes, you do have to send a screenshot. There are a lot of times when you would need to do that. Let's go into Photos here. And let's go and let's pick a photo. We'll go to this one here. And I'm just going to do a simple request here. I'm going to say, tell me about this photo. And let's see, it's working and it should ask, and here I can do a screenshot or, oh, you can see it's showing my notes. So this is a case where it is latching on to text edit, which I have on my other screen, and it thinks I want information about that, not about photos. Let's go and see if by making this full screen here that I can get Siri to figure out what I want. Let's see if this works. Nope, it still thinks text edit is what I want. I'm going to try hiding text edit, and let's see if it works this time. This is typical. Nope, it now thinks Finder is the one I want. So let's go ahead, cancel that. And the only app I have visible down, not even Finder, is Photos. So let's go and try again. And I'm going to use different language if it doesn't get it this time. Finally, it got it. So notice that what I thought it was going to do and what it's done for me in the past is it says, you want to send a screenshot? But here it actually latched on and said, oh, you want photos. Like it was the frontmost app every time. But here it actually gets that I want the photo. And it's only going to send the photo, which is really nice. It shows that Photos is communicating, but it gives me information like that. So it's describing the photo, so it's kind of like maybe not what I really wanted. I really wanted uh, to know where this is, and let's see if it can get it. And maybe ChatGPT is just not going to be able to do it. Oh, no, it figured it out. It knows exactly where this is. Very nice. So, and that information isn't on the screen anywhere. Not that it matters because I sent a screen, I sent the photo. You see exactly what's sent. For privacy, it's showing you what it's sending. So there's that. Um, let's see. So let's try another example here. And I going to see, whoa. So this is just another way to do it. And let's say you've got some notes, your class notes like this. You've taken some notes and you want to actually ask Apple Intelligence through Siri to recommend books that you could read to learn more about this. So let's try that. And I'm going to try doing it and seeing if it will send this. And in the past, it hasn't. So I'm going to show you an alternative way to do it. Uh, uh, recommend some books I can read to learn more about the topic or the things in this note. And let's see if it does it. Oh, so it actually did it. So it's allowing me to do a screenshot here. And so I can just send what's in the screenshot. So it's not going to get the information below. So if I send this in here, it may miss something because it's only seeing what's in the screenshot. And here's some recommendations. Great. But another way to do it is I'm going to go to bottom of this note and I'm going to create a section called further reading. Let's even be fancy here and create a heading. And then below it, I am going to click the little Apple Intelligence button here. And instead of having it proofread or rewrite or summarize, I'm going to say compose. And I'm going to say, give me a list of books that are where I can learn more about this. And here below, you can see it says include all text or selected text. I haven't selected any text, but that would be useful. I could select specific text from this note just to get recommendations about that. But I'm going to say include all, and I'm going to press return, and it's going to compose, but composing is basically just filling this in. And look at that. I get this whole section here, and I can now go in and, maybe just edit this. I don't need that. And I can go through and delete the ones that I'm not interested in and all that. But I can ask questions about what's in the note under the guise of composing more of the note. So yeah, that's another way to go about doing things. And of course, I could have done the same thing in Pages as well and other places. But it's particularly useful there in Notes. Let's go and really push things and try something else here. In the Preview app, I've got a PDF here. Let's see if we can convince Siri to send information to ChatGPT about getting information about this form. So let's just do something really basic. Tell me about this PDF form. And let's see if it latches on to the fact I'm using Preview. No, it's going back to Text Edit. I'll hide Text Edit, make Preview the only app. And let's see if this time it's okay with it. No, don't have a PDF form to look at. It's tricky to get this going. Nope, still doesn't allow me to do it. Let's make this full screen. And let's try it now. This is not unexpected because I got this pretty much each time. Now finally, with it full screen, I've convinced it to allow me to send the full content of this PDF to either Apple Intelligence or ChatGPT. In this case, it's going to send it off to ChatGPT. Apple Intelligence doesn't do much now that's complex. It's almost always offloading to ChatGPT. So it's doing this, and I can ask more questions. What info do I need to fill? I could kind of follow up, and I can ask more questions about this, which is, maybe for a form like this, it's like, well, why am I asking that? It's pretty straightforward. But plenty of us have received forms that need a little bit more explanation before filling it out. So you can see how I get useful information here from uh, from ChatGPT through Siri with this form. And you could do even more with apps that don't necessarily have documents. Here is Maps. So we've got Maps here. Let's see if we can convince it to tell us about this. Let's see, I'll just do something simple. I mean, you could probably think of something much more interesting to ask as a first question, but you can always just try to get like things going with this. So this is going to say, oh, I don't know how to interface with Maps, but I know that you're using Maps. I can get a screenshot and I'll send that in. So I can do that, which shows you how you can work with apps that have no clue that Apple Intelligence or Siri or ChatGPT even exists because of the screenshot functionality. So it shows this, and then you can ask follow-up questions about it, and it's going to just work with ChatGPT. It's still got the context that it's this map, it's this location that it's asking about. So you can do some really useful stuff. And another example here would be like in music. So I can just go in, here's an album, and if I ask this, hopefully it'll latch on to it and say, no, look at that. It wants to get uh, the Finder window. So let's go down and try it again. I have nothing else open except this. And I think using the iPad and iPhone, it's going to be a little bit easier with a lot of this because you just have the one screen thing on the screen at a time, although that's not true for the iPad anymore. So it'll be interesting to see like how it works. But you just have to keep working with it. You can't just because it doesn't work one way with one set of words and, one thing on the screen doesn't mean that if you don't change something a little bit, go full screen, hide other apps, ask the question slightly differently, that it won't work then. So you just have to keep, and anybody working with large language model stuff like ChatGPT and the like knows that sometimes you need to ask the question a different way or ask for clarity. So you get, this here. Um, and you can ask follow-up questions based on that. I agree. The next natural listen after Rubber Soul would be Revolver. So um, there you go. So yeah, a lot of different cool things that you can do. Notice how like nothing I showed here was all the bad side of AI, creating content that's not yours, plagiarizing things and all of that. It's all about increasing your knowledge, helping you write your thing, helping you analyze your spreadsheet, helping you get more information about locations in maps, understanding how to fill out PDF forms, and all of that. I think a lot of that gets overlooked, the useful, practical uses for AI, for Apple Intelligence, for ChatGPT. Let me just take a look at some questions here. Um, let's see. Well, I've been covering the type of things that Apple Intelligence does that it doesn't need to call to ChatGPT for. No, because I really to do this level of complexity right now, you need to call out to ChatGPT. Apple set it up like that. There are things and questions you can answers to using Apple Intelligence, but it's going to automatically go and say, ChatGPT is better at this, and that's why it's going to ChatGPT. I didn't have anything set up to say, always ask ChatGPT. Every one of these requests went to ChatGPT because Apple Intelligence recognized it. If I were to say, ask something else, let's say, what's the fastest animal? That didn't go to ChatGPT. That went to Apple Intelligence, and that's why I got such a quick answer. But give me a list of the top 10, then it's going to say, oh, ChatGPT, I'll do that. And well, in this case, it didn't really understand even the context there. So Apple has definitely said that they are working on getting Apple Intelligence's large language model up to the speed of ChatGPT's. And I'm sure what's holding them back is more of the privacy stuff. So trying to get it to be more private and also probably the legal stuff. They want to make sure everything that they're training their model on is squeaky clean. And that's what's holding them back, while other small companies can kind of like just put out large language model things all the time because they're not too worried about that. But right now they have an agreement with ChatGPT, and you don't have to have ChatGPT, signed up with your account. It could still ask ChatGPT anonymously for things. So a lot of this, maybe all of this will work even if you don't have ChatGPT set up in settings like I showed at the beginning. Um, let's see. Great. Cool. So I think, I've answered a lot of the questions here, and I hope I've given you some ideas how to go even further. The way to get good at this is the way to get good at any skill is to practice it. For instance, if you're a writer, go back to what you were writing. Start off with something like what I did, where I said, give me the themes of this or whatever. And then think about what else can I ask? Can I, like, for this here, can I ask, give me a list of all the characters? You're writing a book, you're halfway through it, maybe you take a month off. Would be useful to have Siri with ChatGPT give you a list of all the characters you've created so far and maybe give you a list of all the locations. Maybe, ask it different questions about your book, ask it to find inconsistencies, things like that. It could probably analyze your writing and tell you things like, are your paragraphs too long or sentences too long, that kind of thing. What's your most common grammatical mistake? There's probably a whole bunch of different things you can keep asking. Experiment with it, and don't experiment with it when you need it. Set aside some time and play around with it to kind of get ideas of what you can do, because not only we discover things that might be useful later, but it'll kind of open you up to what sort of things are possible. And then check this space 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, because it's going to keep getting better. Apple Intelligence as large language model will do more at some point. ChatGPT will do more still at some point. And there's a lot of just cool stuff that you can use. It's a great tool. The Apple Intelligence stuff is a tool just like anything else. And if you learn to use it, it could work for you. So hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.